morning to everyone. Welcome to Orlando. Thanks for being here. I will introduce our keynote speaker, Coach Jeremy Sheetinger, best known as Sheets. He is the head coach at Georgia Gwinnett College, and in his first season, his team, the Grizzlies, won 22 consecutive games and ranked number 3 in the NAIA. His team won all 5 of the Avista World Series games, defeating the number 1, number 2 twice, and number 4 seed and number 6 seed. And in 2021, brought home the NAIA National Championship, the first in program history. Since Coach Sheets arrived at GGC, he has helped 20 players sign professionally, with 16 in the past 2 seasons. Sheets has served for 4 years as the American Baseball Coach Association as an executive assistant director, guiding all social channels, coaching development initiative, and the number 1 ranked baseball podcast, which helped see a 200% growth in membership and set attendance records for 3 straight annual conventions. Please welcome my friend, Coach Sheets.
You guys mind if I close this one? Hope it doesn't either. Let's see how this goes. How's everybody doing this morning? No, that ain't gonna work. Guys, I'm an energy guy. I thrive on it. I live with it. And I expect you to bring some this morning. I know it's a convention. I get everything about it. How's everybody doing this morning? Okay. All right. Got a couple of you looking at me like I'm not listening to this chubby white dude tell me to speak up on an early morning. And I'm going to tell you that I ain't going anywhere for the next hour. So we're going to be here. But I want to make sure that there's some juice in the room. Guys, I'm excited to be here. Like, this is pretty neat. It's pretty good for me to walk down that stairwell and see some associational stuff happen. It's sort of scratching that itch that I forgot that I really thrived on and really appreciate. I like the momentum that's in the room. I like when the board members or guys that want to be on the board are introducing themselves and they're got some momentum behind it, got some spirit behind it. My guy, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. We're going to call you Butch. We're just going to give you an American. I got Sheetinger, just straight to Sheets. We're just going to go right to Butch. Make you as American as we can. But I appreciate you guys being here. And I think part of this and where I see the parallel, because you're probably looking at a baseball coach figuring out, why is this guy up here going to talk to us about IDA and what you do? I'm not going to tell you how to be an expert in your field. I value what you guys do. And again, I know where I'm good and I know where I'm not. But I know that there's lessons that I've learned in athletics. And there's, again, principles that apply to what we do that have certainly helped organizations and businesses all over the country. I do a lot of consulting work, do a lot of, obviously, presentations, and the messages that sometimes in athletics we take for granted inside of our dugout or in front of our team or in front of my classroom every day with our players, you take for granted, but they're leadership principles, they're business principles, they're people skills. Today on my Thursday Ride-In video, I posted about public speaking things that you guys need to know, that we all need to know, that ambitious people need to know. And again, that's where a lot of this is going to come from. But we're going to talk about burning the ships today, and I'll get to that here in a second. I want to show you a couple images from inside of our program just to give you a frame of reference. And Bruno, thank you for the great intro. And obviously, you kind of alluded to some of that, man. We've been to 5 World Series inside of 10 years. Our program is only 11 years old, so we've built something from scratch. Never was a field. Our institution is only 17 years old. We're the only brick and mortar institution built after the year 2000, and we're thriving. Year 17 for the school, year 11 for athletics. And in 10 years, 5 World Series, we've averaged 47 wins per year. We won the 2021 National Championship. And as Bruno alluded to, one of the biggest things for me as I look through these pictures, this picture matters. This is the first guy at GGC that we helped sign professionally with the Houston Astros. And that is what I think the mission of a coach is: you help the people around you pursue their goals. Our coaching staff, our philosophy is very simple. We want to empower the people in our program to have enough confidence and courage to go attack life and act on their own thoughts and ideas. Like, think about that from a leadership perspective. Empowering people so they feel like they have the confidence to act on their own thoughts and ideas. And when I'm sitting here talking with Hunter about pursuing professional baseball, possibly changing from a starter to a reliever, the opportunity within the Astros organization who needed left-handed pitching, we helped this guy sign professionally. So in the last 2 years, 16 players have signed professionally, and I feel like we're the medium. We're the bridge to that goal to help those guys pursue where they want to go. This is our 21 group. Could not be more proud. When you go back to people and process, to me, that picture right there defines people and process. And I know you don't recognize those faces, but what I can tell you, the inner details are, there is people in terms of folks on that team figuring out what their own particular role will be, because not everybody can play shortstop. Not everybody can start on the mound. Somebody's got to set the bench. Somebody's got to be the pinch runner. Somebody's got to move from starter role to the bullpen role. Got to get the best version of those people to show up. It's process. A month before this picture was taken, we lost a game 19-1. Now, I don't know how many baseball fans are in here, but that's called getting your teeth kicked in. Okay? We got curb stomped. And I went, I don't know if we've got the group. I don't know if they're tough enough. And we flipped on a dime. We won 22 of our last 23 and won our final game. It's people and process. Right before I went up, I had a text from my wife just talking about our kids. We got 2 small kids. We got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, Cooper and Charlie. Those of you that have children, I'm 41, so I waited late on this thing, and it shows. I'm going to limp a little bit because I've got like a sprained MCL from chasing my kids around the house. It's what happens when you're 40 years old and you're trying to keep up like you're 25. I'm not. My kids move really quick. But it's an awesome opportunity to be a father, as most of you know. Then you get a chance to go speak. And my wife's not here, and I told her, you're in my presentation, but probably not in the way that you think. This is a picture I took a couple nights ago as we sat on the couch. And as moms that have kids, that time where the kids are down and you can take a shower and shave your legs for the first time in 3 weeks and like just breathe for a minute and have a glass of wine. This is the picture I took. Now, I'll put this in the presentation. She doesn't know that this picture's up. And I don't know if I'm going to show her or not. But when she noticed I was taking a picture, this is the next picture that she made. So this is my gorgeous wife, Chelsea. This is a better picture. This is pretty typical of a household with 2 small kids. This is the kind of family pictures you get. Mom and dad always find the camera. One of your kids usually does. The other one is staring at his belly button right now. This is our family. And so we put the kids to bed the other night, and it was right before I took off on yesterday to come here, and we were just reflecting on not only the growth of our kids, but just how things had transitioned. You're talking about she met me at a place where I was a coach for a year, then I got out of coaching. I moved into administration with the American Baseball Coaches Association, which I'll talk about, and then decided to convince her to come back to coaching. And trust me, this is going to work out. This is going to go really well. I'm more prepared now than I was before. And I just asked her, stepping back from that, and I'm jumping on a plane to fly to Orlando to go speak to a group. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, see these things coming together? Could you have envisioned that for us in this plan, things would come together? Now, you got to have people in your life that keep you humble. My wife is certainly one of those people. She said, let me help you understand something, big boy. You don't play a role in any of my wildest dreams. And I get it. Like, when you've got chubby white dude and you got that, I get it. I don't need to be, but I think having somebody like that brings me to this. I call my players, they call me Uncle Sheets. And a tip from your Uncle Sheets is this. In life, there's 2 types of people. There's those who are humble, and then there's those who are about to be. And I think always trying to keep yourself in that space of fighting ego and choking down some humility, I think keeps us where we want to go. So I'll kick it off with that spirit. I want to tell you a story. And this is one that I just ran upon just a couple months ago, and processing it from a leadership perspective. I'm not going to approach it from a history perspective because I'm not a history major. I'm a dumb baseball coach. But from a leadership principle perspective, I think it's a valuable lesson. This is Cortez, and Cortez was a conqueror a guy in the 1500s that they would put on a boat with an army and they would send him out and he would go conquer land. That's kind of, again, the spirit in which we were at that point in time. And Cortez decides that there's this section in the Yucatan Peninsula that's got Spanish treasure. And it's treasure that they haven't seen in years. Like, this group of Aztecs have had this treasure for hundreds of years. And there's a lot of Spanish artifacts and treasure that are inside of that. And so he decides, I'm going to go conquer this land. I'm going to be the guy that brings this treasure back, and I'm going to make it, do it on behalf of my country. And so he rounds up as many people as he can. He stops in Cuba, rounds up even more. What he's got is 11 boats, it's 500 soldiers, and 13 horses. Like, how specific is that? He's got not 14, he's got 13 horses, 500 people, and 11 boats. And he's going to literally roll right into the beach of the Yucatan Peninsula. He's going to fight these Aztecs. And they have over 5,000 warriors just waiting on him. And I think the bravado and the ego and wanting to really go attack and get this treasure back and do it on behalf of Spain, but also do it to certainly elevate himself in the leadership, I think you've got to acknowledge that principle in terms of how ego will take you places. But once you get in the middle of it, and once you put yourself in that situation, you got to figure out how to make it work. And so he gets on that boat, and those boats, and they're running across this water, and he starts to hear rumblings, especially from his boat, that these dudes with him ain't about this fight. They're counting, it's 13 horses, that's all we got. You know how many people they're going to be there? And they can start to feel that there's instant death. How many guys in leadership have tried to convince your group to go? Try to give them the principles to move. Try to motivate them, and it just feels like you're in this position. As a leader, you're just screaming. You're, come on, you can do this. And it's not ringing true. It's not getting through to them. You're not getting them where you want them. I've certainly felt like that at certain points as a coach. Whether we're in kind of a slump in the season or we're dealing with an injury. Last year, I'll give you some transparency here because I believe in that word as well. We had a pretty selfish player on our team. And it became an issue. And speaking to my team about being selfless and trying to bring that quality out, sometimes I felt like, especially to that player, I felt like I was screaming right at him and nothing was sinking through. That's where Cortez was. He's trying to get his group motivated. He feels like, man, if we land with this mentality, it's not going to go well. I mean, we're going to be a bloody mess. And when he lands, he decides, there's only one thing that I can do to convince these folks that, man, we've got to fight and we can do this. You've got to leave them no exit strategy. And so what he does is he literally, from the shore, burns the boats. Tells the captains, I want you to take that torch, I want you to walk right back on your boat, all 11 boats, and I want you to burn every single one of them to the ground. Now you got 500 people, 500 fighters, 13 horses, sitting on that beach watching smoke just bellow into the sky, watching their exit strategy get completely vanquished. And then Cortez brings them all up, just like a coach would, just like a leader would. You bring them into your meeting space, and he says, we're here. We're not leaving. If we leave, guess whose boats we're taking? We're using their boats. But we're not leaving with ours. And it's that finality that arrives at their front door that, hey, we got to do this. If we want to get off this island, if we want to move back to our homes, we want to see our families again, we're burning the ships because we're living. We're defeating the Aztecs. And they did. And the strategy for me comes back to, again, the ability to work through that space, work through that decision, and decide that you're tired of where you're at and you're burning the ships. It's like working out. I mean, there's a couple in here because I can tell through the polos. You really like to work out. I like to work out when I get going, but to get going sucks. Like, it sucks. I don't like throwing up on the back of an elliptical. Like, I don't think that's fun for me. I'd rather do other things. All right? But to get going, you've got to put yourself in a position where you're ready to burn the ships. And I think, for me personally, transparency, right? I'm at that point, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of, moving belt buckles. I'm tired of shirts fitting. I'm ready to burn the boats and get in shape. So I'll be there in Phoenix next year, and I'm doing this entire speech with my shirt off. That's what's happening, all right? That's where we're going. But you just got to get to a point where you're ready to burn the ships. I talked about my history. I coached for 11 years. Great experience. I coached on all levels of college baseball. I'll give you a great perspective on what Division I looks like, what Division II looks like. I was a Division III head coach, coached on the NAI level. And a godsend, I got a chance to leave coaching and take a 4-year, let's call it sabbatical, and work as an assistant executive director for the American Baseball Coaches Association. When I talk through this presentation, I want you to hear me talk about ABCA, but I want you to input IDA every time you hear it. Okay, because again, I think from an associational perspective, we were in a common place. And the opportunity is literally knocking on the outside of that door in terms of where we can go. And to leave coaching was certainly to say it was scary is an understatement. When you've defined yourself as something for so long, I'm a coach. Like if anybody stood up right now and you want to talk infield drills, I'm all in, let's do it. You want to get into some base running stuff, you want to talk about double plays and doubles in the gap, I'm all in. But now I'm going to go be an administrator. So now I got to go speak with athletic directors, I got to speak with presidents, I got to spend time more than I wanted to in a suit and tie. Which for a baseball coach, guys, you can't take the coach out of me. There's a stopwatch in my pocket at any point. If there's a sprint race that wants to break out, I got the time. All right, you can't take the coach out of me. And in this situation, I was going to be the only coach that had ever worked in the ABCA national office. So having folks that are running the association but didn't necessarily quite understand what we needed or what we were about, I felt like I was going to fill a void as a coach and get in there and go to work. And I want to use that experience with you as a simple case study. And I want to share from inside the growth of our association what we did. And once again, I want you to hear IDA. Every time I talk about ABCA, I want you to hear IDA. This is a kind of a glimpse into what we walked into. The previous 5-year trend, I arrived in the fall of 2015, 2016 in Nashville was my first convention. But up until that point, membership was, let's just say it was steady. I mean, for a lot of associations to say somewhere in the low 4s to high 4s, sometimes crossing over 5,000, if that's your membership total, it's pretty good. Depending on what your dues are, and again, you're trying to take that against your budget and where you stand and how you make things stay in the black. Our membership is pretty consistent for that 5-year stretch. Now, having a brand new executive director, having a new assistant executive director, if you can't tell, I'm very ambitious. I do not like status quo. I have no interest in being average. In my world, good will get you beat. I believe in being great. I knew Georgia Gwinnett was the perfect fit when I pulled in, and on the light poles around our campus it says, "Go be great." I knew I was in the right place. Quick 30-second timeout. Any basketball fans? 30-second timeout. So I go into our interview, okay? I arrive on campus at Georgia Gwinnett. I don't tell very many people this story, but I feel like I can share. I feel like you're my people, okay? I arrive at Georgia Gwinnett, and I get there early. Anybody that's ever been in an interview, you're always trying to work through like how you're going to separate yourself. You know, no different than, again, our folks standing up wanting to be on the new board. You're trying to find ways to separate yourself. Well, I decided I'm going to separate myself not only by getting there early, I'm going to get to the bookstore and I'm going to buy at Georgia Gwinnett College with the bear head, I'm going to buy a coffee cup. And that way, if I'm in the interview, I'm constantly with the bear head facing the group, I'm constantly drinking out of this coffee cup because I could be your next baseball coach. Like, check this out. Look, it looks good on me, doesn't it? This would be perfect. It'd be great for me. And I get the coffee cup. So I park and I'm walking up to our welcome booth. And there's an attendant, he comes out and meets me and he goes, "So what are you here for?" And I said, "Man, I'm actually interviewing for the head baseball job." He goes, "Yeah, our baseball coach, you got a job, and yeah, so tell me about yourself." And I start breaking it down with him. I don't know him from Adam, he doesn't know me, but I'm just breaking it down with him. Man, this is what I am, this is what I'm about. I'm working at ABCA, and I'm excited, man. I think this opportunity here is special. I think you've got a gold mine. I think this would be the job I'll be at for the next 40 years. It's that kind of opportunity. And I'm breaking it down for him, and I'm giving him all my thoughts and ideas. I'm basically doing the interview before the interview, but I was just giving it all out. And he is just looking at me, and he kept stepping back, and he kept like looking me up and down, and he kept like, he goes, "Boy, you got a lot of confidence, don't you?" And I said, "Well, if I'm going to walk into this interview and think it's someone else's job, why am I even here?" I go, hey dude, I know you don't know me, but this job's mine. Like, they're gonna give it to me. If they don't, there must be something wrong with them. Like, this is my job. And he goes, boy, I could drink some of that confidence in. All right, man. Well, hey, bookstore's right over there. Go get your coffee cup, and you crushed it today. So I appreciate it. As I am 15, 20 feet away from this guy, the second attendant comes out, and I hear all this happen. The second attendant goes, hey, who was that? And he goes, that right there? That's a bad mamma jamma walking across campus right there. He goes, that right there is your next head baseball coach. And that was all I needed to hear, that someone acknowledged that confidence. 30-second timeout over. We're back into membership, all right? Previous 5-year trend. We're trending in that 4,000 to crossing over a little bit of 5,000, but it's the similar trajectory with convention. Okay, what you're having are people who want to be a member, but they're probably doing it because they're coming to convention. That's how they're signing up for membership. And when you see these numbers, and again, I think it all explains itself when you see it on a graph, very consistent. Very consistent when you look at membership and convention. Every time it fluctuates, it's probably a fluctuation in convention attendance. Now you do have the consistent members that want to be members no matter what. Even if they can't make it to Orlando, they can't make it to Arizona, they want to be part of the association. And that's what we were kind of walking into and recognizing these trends. I think when you get an ambitious group and you start to fill those gaps and you start to recognize where maybe the previous group was falling short. Now, to their credit, the previous group had 3 full-time employees. When I walked in, we now had 7 full-time employees with 2 interns. So we were going to attack this with more hands, we're getting more ideas out on the table, and attack it from a different perspective. This is how our membership grew from 16 all the way to 2020, and exponentially. Again, well over 200% growth. And seeing that trend happen, we'll come back to the inner details. This is what convention looked like. And again, you're asking folks to come all over the country, whether it's Nashville, Dallas, Orlando, we crush, again, Chicago, getting folks to bigger parts of the country into those convention spaces. You can see those numbers. But now you're starting to see a little bit of a trend that the membership and the convention attendance, although they will work in parallel, now we're starting to create separation. You're starting to see membership take off. Now we're building a rapport. Now we're building a community of folks that are tied to ABCA. And if I can go to convention, I'll make it. But if I can't, I want to be part of something. And I'll get to the meat and potatoes of how we did that. But you can see how things are trending. This is what it looks like across that whole 10-year span. Again, where the association was, where ABCA, where IDA was, and again, attacking it from a perspective to where we can take this in a different direction. This is how much it took off. I'm not going to take all the credit for sure. We had a great team, we have great people, but I think it comes back to, again, knowing your people, rebuilding your process, which I'll get back to. I think this is where the gold is, right? And this is where I feel like we are right now. I couldn't be more excited based on just the conversations I've had since I've been down here since about 8 a.m. And listening to Tiffany and talking with Lance and hearing some of you talk about the feelings different. That kickoff last night was different. The social last night was different. There's certainly a different feeling here. You got folks that are fired up and want to contribute to the board. There's members in here that are feeling that something's changing in the room. And that's what we tried to find, that gold right there. How can you attack what that feeling is and take that momentum to take your association to a different place? Here's some of the things that were said. As I got in the office, I feel like my first year on the phone. That's not out of the ordinary as a coach, because we recruit, we talk to coaches, we're always on our phone. It's one of my wife tells me one of my worst qualities is my phone is usually glued to my hand. It's part of it. But I spent my first few years at ABCA on the phone, and I'm calling members, and I'm calling coaches, and I'm asking them questions. I'm listening to their stories. They're telling me things that are happening within their administration, changes in their athletic department. Their AD won't let them do this, but maybe they can do that. Here's what are some fundraising ideas you have. And I'm trying to be that liaison, that coach in the office, but I'm listening and I'm taking notes. And I'm trying to understand where our membership's coming from. These are the things that came out. Listening to your membership will tell you everything you need to know. Our members, at that point, we're talking about, you're archaic. You're way behind the times. Got softball coaches that go to their convention, here's what they're doing. Got soccer coaches in our department, here's what they're doing. Got football coaches in the department, here's what they're doing. You guys are archaic. You're behind the times. One of the statements, as you guys know in leadership, one of the worst statements you can make as a leader is to defend a decision or defend an opportunity to change and greet it with, well, we've always done it that way. That was the statement being made in the ABCA office. We've always kind of done it that way. We've always just shipped out our registration cards in the mail because we've always done it that way. We've always, post-convention, sent out the videos with a DVD burner because we've always kind of done it that way. And that is cancerous. And certainly when you hear that, you just go, nope, we're going to try to find another solution there. One of the other things that came back to is there's extreme disconnect from the association to the membership. Extreme disconnect. There's nothing being done from the associational perspective that these coaches want to see done. Big thing for our association is our association has a leg to stand on with the NCAA, with the NAI, with the NJCAA, and the ABCA can step in and be that voice and say, hey, on behalf of our coaches, we need to address this rule change. There was no one fighting for our coaches, extreme disconnect. So there's a separator there. And now that you know these things and you know there's a separation, I started asking these questions. Now again, this is me being a coach. This is me being ambitious. This is me, at times, not caring if I hurt feelings in the room. But what it came back to is, man, this is what I'm hearing. Have you guys ever just picked up the phone and talked to baseball coaches? Or are a bunch of administrators in this room trying to make decisions for people that you haven't talked to? That's a problem. You got to listen to your folks. What are our members saying about the ABCA? Have we done surveys? Have we done calls? Have we been on some of these situations where we're trying to pull information that are giving us our roadmap to lead? Literally, they're giving you the answers to the test. And it's your roadmap to go lead. This is, I think, remarkable, and it probably fits IDA in a lot of different ways. When do you think about IDA? When do you think about the ABCA? You think about us, our convention is always the first week in January. You think about us December 1st, when it really gets winter, when you've got Christmas to plan for, and then a week after Christmas, you got to figure out, again, we need plane tickets, we got rent a car, do we have the hotel reservations, taking my staff to Nashville, and for that week in Nashville, or that week in Chicago, or the week in Orlando, you're 10 shades of fired up about the ABCA, about IDA. And then you pack your stuff up and you go home. And for a baseball coach, December through January 10th, you're fired up about the ABCA. The minute we start practice, the minute we start playing games, we start going through summer recruiting, we start going through fall practice, you don't think one more time about the ABCA. And maybe that fits IDA. As you build up towards the convention, man, it's apparent. We want to be part of this. This is going to be exciting. Can't wait to see Jimmy or Susan. I can't wait to get there. But then throughout the rest of the months of the year, when are you really thinking through how to help IDA grow? When does it pay to be a member? Like to be an ABCA member, when does it really show up? How can we build some rapport with our community to make it, hey, it's cool. It's cool to be part of the ABCA. It's cool to be part of the IDA. We talked about in our association, I want to provide so many educational resources that we're going to make learning cool again for baseball coaches. A lot of ego in baseball, a lot of it. And a dude can coach hitting the same way for 25 years and never change. And instead of going back to, well, hey, does your plan even work? Your team hit 230. No, most of you don't know, that's not very good. So you go, hey man, you got to change your plan. You got to learn, you got to grow, you got to adjust, you got to accommodate. You got to be willing to adopt some new philosophies in there. You got to be willing to go back to the drawing board and work through things. Our association was at a point where when people talked about going to the ABCA, they were talking about going to the convention. You guys following this? Hey, you guys going to the ABCA? That was our convention. Not, I'm a proud member of the ABCA, and I can't wait to go to convention. It was like literally placed in a spot that the association was the convention. That's how often we thought about the ABCA as a coach. So let me give you another tip from your Uncle Sheets here. When you're trying to decide, are you really crushing it? Are you really getting it done? Are you really serving your people? Another tip here would be when you walk in the door each day you come in and out of your house, I don't want you to let the excitement of your dog fool you into thinking you're a great person. Right? When we're walking around the convention halls at our convention, and I'm sure the previous staff felt the same way, everybody's fired up. Everybody's excited. And you could walk around there and go, hey man, we're doing really, really good. We're crushing this thing. A month later, how do you feel? 2 months later, how do you feel? When 6 months goes by and no one from ADA has contacted you, how's that feel? Doesn't build that rapport that you're looking for. So don't get lost in the excitement of a little bit of momentum. Don't get lost in the excitement of this convention, as great as it is. There's got to be work to be done outside of this week to grow your association. Back to some communication stuff, guys. Pre-2016, this is how we communicated with our membership. And by all accounts, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's great. Weekly newsletter, awesome. Sending that out in an email form. Most of you that have lived in this space in terms of email, 15% open rate. That's a little bit below average. But okay, we're getting to some people. Not much in there, but yeah, there's a weekly newsletter that goes out. A bi-yearly magazine. That bi-yearly magazine went out in August when membership started in September, and it went out in February to recap the previous convention. So again, you're funneling the narrative. It's all about convention. ABCA is nothing but a convention. So a magazine that went out a couple of years. We had our annual convention, which I talked about, and at the point when I got there, Twitter was at 4,100 followers, and we were dipping our toe into Facebook. We had 238 people that were following our page. And that's where we were before we got going. This is where we went to by 2020. Weekly newsletter, absolutely. You want to continue to always have that touch point. Many of you have probably invested into emails and making sure that's part of your content strategy, but certainly your communication strategy. We elevated that open rate to 35%, which again, many of you would know, that's well above average. You're now into an elite category when you're living in that 35% open rate. The difference was we made sure the content mattered. If you're trying to build membership, then share articles from your membership. Coaches that are writing articles, coaches that have done great things in their community, personal stories in there. Coaches that win 200 games, 500 games, their 1,000th game, you're going to put an article in there in that weekly newsletter that'll drive and generate because the information is about them. It's not about outside noise. We took that magazine and we shipped it out 6 times a year. So every 2 months, our associational members were getting a magazine that had, again, articles and data and research and things that they could use to coach with. So let's double down, let's make that magazine even better. One of the things that I wanted to do is, I felt like at ABCA, from a baseball coach perspective, we're kind of like the educational mothership. It's about the best way I could put it. I don't know if you got Star Wars, and I don't even watch any of that stuff. But like the mothership. We are the mothership of baseball coaching education. Well, damn it, if we're the mothership, then let's double down on that. Let's be the absolute epitome of a mothership. Let's do more. So we have our annual convention. Let's run 20 regional coaching clinics that get us, me, out of the office, on the ground floor, with the people, because you've got to recognize that you won't go to every city. We'll never have an ABCA convention in Seattle. It's too polarizing. Now you're making people from the East Coast, Boston, Florida, Washington, D.C., fly to see how it happen. You're never going to have it. We're not going to have a convention in Arizona. We're not going to have another convention in Orlando, Florida. We're going to live where our population lives. We're going to greet the people where they are for our convention. What I can do is go run coaching clinics where we won't be. Phoenix was one of our first ones. Seattle was our first one. Portland was one of our first ones. Dallas, Texas. You got to go back to the sites that treat you right. Nashville. We went to Chicago. We went to New York. We went to Boston. We went to Jacksonville. We've gone all over the country running these coaching clinics as literally a feeder back into our association. We did a weekly podcast, as Bruno brought up. Starting that, if anyone have ever dipped into this space, I was recording it through the audio in my computer when I started. I don't know if you know, that's not good. It's very bad. My first few episodes are cringeworthy. And then I heard that, hey, maybe if you get like a mixer. Mixers are good. Yeah, I'll get a mixer. And maybe if you invest in a nice mic. Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great. And then you just learn how to dominate Audacity if you've ever done a pod. And I'm free. Why not? It's like Google. It's free. And I get in there and I figure it out. And we jump from literally being just a trying to figure it out podcast to the #1 baseball show in the country. I'll always, if you guys are baseball fans, our show was 1, Buster only was 2. My guy. All right? Changing the game in terms of communication strategies, getting information. I try to look at it as a weekly coaching clinic from some of the best coaches in the country. And getting that into the space, man, was a huge deal. Still get DMs about that podcast today. We ran our annual convention, but we doubled down on the convention. We made it bigger. We made it better. We did things that were more uniquely. Where it was just running out of the main hall with coaching clinics, we added a youth coaches session. An ability for a youth coach, not stand up here and listen to a base running coach from the San Francisco Giants, go listen to a youth coach that's dealing with 8 to 12-year-olds so that the information is relative for you. We did a rookie coaches mentoring session. When you've got young coaches, first-time members, they don't know. They don't know how to navigate this space. They don't know how to network. They don't know how to go shake hands. They don't know how to, again, trade business cards. They don't know that stuff. And giving them that information, we tried to expand the reach of what the convention could be. We did a bi-monthly Twitter chat. I'll give you a little social media. I love teaching social media. Those hashtags are real if you use them the right way. Hashtags are real. Hashtags can be searched. Information will fall under a hashtag. So one thing we were very deliberate was we're going to do this Twitter chat under hashtag ABCA chat. And what that's going to allow folks to do, we did a countdown on Twitter. Hey, we're starting in an hour. We're starting in 15 minutes. Hey, we're 1 minute away. Kicked off the Twitter chat. Had it all scheduled. If you've ever been a Ute, Suite, if you ever spent time in any of those, guys, it will absolutely do all the work for you. I scheduled tweets every 7 minutes asking questions. Coaches would put all their information in under hashtag ABCA chat. You could search that right now on Twitter and find a bunch, years of baseball knowledge under hashtag ABCA chat. And again, it's another resource. If we're the educational hub, let's get in the driver's seat. So we did that Twitter chat. We jumped Twitter from, again, 4,000 followers to when I left, we were at 42,000 followers. Facebook, again, we were at 238. We're now over a little over 5,000 because we were being deliberate about what we shared. As most of you know, I'm guessing I'm reading the room, a lot of Facebook posts in this group, not as many TikToks. I'm probably dead on there. Okay, so let me help you out. TikTok is a new social media platform that a lot of young people are using, okay? It's videos, it's comments. If you flip through there, you'll get lost, all right? If you're on TikTok for so long, they actually have a video that pops up, and the young lady goes, hey, you've been scrolling for a long time. You should probably just go to bed. That's TikTok. It's a suck hole. That's where the kids are. So yesterday, before I jumped on the plane, my team, we shot a TikTok video that we'll post tomorrow, and it's going to go viral. It's electric. And again, we're going to go where the people are. But I know that our coaches, when we're talking about baseball coaches, all of them are on Twitter. Twitter is very informational. You can share information. The big trend on Twitter right now are threads. Business leaders, authors, they're sharing threads of information that people can use. Facebook is more about, again, probably lends itself to a little bit of Instagram. It's more about a picture. It's more about a post. It's more about an idea that you can put out there. So we're sharing in various ways. Instagram we started, YouTube account we started. One thing I left off there is before I left, I had just shot the pilot episode for ABCA, The Road Show, which was a television show that just came out of nowhere, and I really thought it'd be fun. And if I was going to stay there, I'd be a TV star. That was kind of my goal. Didn't work out. I left. But it was awesome. It was a great opportunity. And I learned production, and I learned lighting, and I learned all the various aspects of running a television show. It was a lot of fun. But it was getting to our coaches differently than we had before. So here's kind of the summation of all that. What it comes back to, very simple principles here, is you got to commit to people. If you're a business leader and you're trying to figure out the direction of where you want to go, I don't care what you're selling, doesn't matter. You can simplify everything down to people and process. And first of all, you've got to commit to people. It'd be like me trying to teach hitting. I could grab anyone in this audience and teach you how to hit. And if I really want to teach you how to hit, guys, it's probably 15, 16, 17 different checkpoints and conversations we need to have. If I'm trying to teach somebody something, I got to simplify it as dulled down as I can, and I'm going to give you 3 things to focus on. And that's what we talk about at ABCA. Let's get it simple, and let's commit to small things. The first was people. Who are we serving? At IDA, who are we serving? Who are our prime targets to become members? Who are our prime targets to be future board members? Who are our prime targets for the trade show? Who are the companies, who are the people that need to be part of this because it's special, it's different, it's communal? What do they want? To bring someone into IDA, what do they want? What do they want to feel part of? And you got to make that part of your messaging. You got to put that out at the forefront. We use again, I'll get to this in a minute, very intentional language, but you've got to answer those questions for them. What do they want? Well, that's who we are. How can you fill those voids? Some of you didn't even know that IDA could fill some voids if you're a first-time member. Now that you're here, you're talking, and you're interacting with folks, you're figuring out that this association can fill some voids for you, whether that's, again, connections, networks, discounts, whatever those things are. That's where you got to commit to people. Understand where your people are, and then you have a better idea on how you're going to serve them. Give a little teaser on this, intentional language. If you scroll back, if you want to, you don't have any time on your flight, scroll back about 5 years, 6 years, 7 years into ABCA tweets, and you're going to see these words a lot. A lot. Very intentional language. One of the key words I have, I'll give you 2. For our team this year, I'm talking about care level, and I'm talking about being intentional. A lot. Care level. I'm getting the right care level in the room. Our recruits from this past year, you guys know in building a team, it's all about simple math rules. There's addition by subtraction, and there's addition by addition. We have both. We got rid of some cancerous cells. We graduated some guys that I was ready to see move on, and the guys we brought in have brought extreme value. It's been addition by addition. But we've been very intentional about what we teach, how we do things, our processes, our structure, our discipline, our expectations, and I'm trying to, again, always challenge and elevate their care level. So when I'm in classroom in front of them, every word is precise. So I'm being very intentional. And it comes back to using these words helped bring our group together. When you talk about having pride, he's a proud 25-year continuous member. He's a proud 5-year member. Hey, first-year guy, he's proud to be part of this association. Using that word pride. Now you're working on the innards a little bit. Loyalty. I mean, continuous membership for ABCA is a big deal. If you have 35 years of continuous membership, you're a lifetime member. I'm fighting for that. I'm at 19 years right now. I'm getting there. Can't wait. But loyal. They're loyal to the association. Now you're creating the disconnect between I'm a member when I go to convention. And now I'm a member because I'm a member. And when I can go, I'll go to convention. Create loyalty within your brand. I think that matters. We talked about community a lot. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than baseball. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself. That principle applies to not just my dugout. It applies to everything you do. It's being part of something bigger than what you could accomplish on your own. We talked about community a lot. Fraternity, which I love to see that up on the video earlier. Guys, that was the biggest word that I intentionally used because I wanted baseball coaches to rally around the idea of being part of a fraternity. Now, I don't know if any of you went to college and joined fraternities or sororities. We're not Omega Psi Phi, we're not Delta Delta Delta, and we're not any of that. Because baseball guys don't have time to join fraternities. Baseball is our fraternity. We just never called it that. And I want to be very intentional and go, hey man, this is ABCA, the baseball coaching fraternity. I got a brand and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're in this thing. We're doing it. I don't have a brand. I don't want to show you that. But we want you to be part of something and be very intentional about that. Make sure that they gravitate towards those words. But then you got to rebuild the process. Once you've committed to people, once you've got your language figured out, now you got to rebuild the process. Once again, we've always done it this way. That doesn't work. If there's a better way, let's find it. Let's critically evaluate our process. And where we see issues and where we see ways we can make it better, let's dive into that. Be very strategic in your moves. You can't jump from A to F. You have to acknowledge the steps along the way. One of my, let's say a coaching acquaintance, we play his team. He tweeted, and he's in his second year as a head coach, and he tweeted a couple days ago, excited to have my new team on campus. Can't wait to go out this year and win a national championship. Last year they went 3-41. Anybody? In the Spanish world, we call that no bueno. Okay? Not good. Play GGC, 14-0, 16-0, 15-0. They're not good. But in his mind, he's making a jump from A to F. I'm going to get new kids in. Oh, we'll just win the last game. One of the most critical things I learned as a young coach was I had a chance to sit around a guy who had been to the World Series a couple times, and I was at his conference, and that's where I wanted to take my program. And I said, man, you got to give me some advice, man. Young guy, I'm ambitious, I'm fired up. He goes, don't think you can skip steps along the journey. You can't wake up one day and go from good to great. It takes time. It takes consistency. You got to be good for a lot of years until one day you arrive at the footsteps of greatness. You can't wake up, snap your fingers, and decide to be a great company. It doesn't work that way. You can't jump from A to F. You got to make sure you hold on to those steps, being very strategic in those moves. Intentional messaging behind it. If there's a better way, let's find it. So I bring all this full circle, guys. And when I talked to Tiffany a couple of weeks ago, transparency was definitely on the phone call. It was awesome. It was awesome. When I try to do any of these talks, the one thing I really, as I'm sure other speakers do, I try to make every message as crafted as I can for this group, like unique. I hate giving the same speech over and over again. I like to make things unique. I want to give you something that's got teeth. I want something to hit home. I want something that's hopefully challenging all of you as your leaders of your own company, but as members of the IEDA, that matters. And again, where I see, based on our conversation was, as Lance went into, we're at a critical point in this association's future. Critical point. When we're talking about meeting the bottom line, when we're talking about thriving on the current membership that we have, or the trend that's in IDA, the convention attendance that we've trended towards, we're at a pretty critical point. I'm not trying to dive into your books. You're at a critical point. Like there's a breathing tube coming into next year if changes aren't made. I'm not off on that. I'm pretty dead on. That's where I try to lead from. So if that's where we are, guys, this is where I see the future of IDA. It's time to burn the ships. Something's got to change. This is a critical point. I feel like, again, I'm a God-send kind of guy. I believe that what's happened in IDA, the feeling I had this morning at 8 a.m., the conversations we've had so far, there's a reason I want to be up on the stage right now, because I want to give you some ideas to work through. There's something to be done better here. Tiffany's well on her way. The feel's different. The momentum's different. That's great. She talked about posting on social media. We've already doubled our followers in a couple weeks. That's awesome. Strategic moves. But it's time to burn the ships. There's no place to go. There's no retreat from where your current position is. If it goes backwards, you won't be having conventions very soon. That's where the future of IDA is. So you got to commit to people. Very simply, you got to commit to people. The people in this room are your starting place. The people in this room that are passionate about this association, that have a vested interest, all those folks that stood up and they talked about wanting to be part of the solution. One thing my wife hates, this is pretty typical, is when I tell her I'm a solutions guy. Boy, she hates that. Because what does she want to do? She just wants to throw issues at my feet. Well, we got to do this and we got to do that. How are we going to get that done? I'm not sure we'll have enough time. The Cooper's got to do this. The Troy's got. I got to go here. Hey. I'm a solutions guy. We'll figure this out. And the ability to work through that, again, gives you a chance to come up with where you're going to go. An older coach told me this, and apply this to your world how you want, but raising a banner, getting a championship ring, having a great quarter in your business, certainly having a great year in your business, IDA taking off in the way that it wants to go, banners are the result of winning the people battle. The reason we win a national championship, as I mentioned earlier, was getting the right people in the room at the right time. Getting the right people in the room at the right time. I see you nodding your head because you're ready to flip the table over, aren't you? Getting the right people in the room at the right time. Getting the best versions of those people to show up when it's time to show up. We've got a shirt in our program that just says show up. I texted my team this morning, I'm getting ready to dominate this presentation. My senior pitcher, coach, just keep showing up, baby. It's part of our mantra in our program. But it's time for these people in this room to show up. Because if you want to put a banner up, man, you got to win the people battle. Answer this question: how can IDA better serve its members? Those in this room that have committed to being a member and committed to coming to convention, you got those answers. When you do this round table, well, that's when all that stuff's got to come out. Here's what we need. Heck, here's what I need. Can you help with that? Because I bet if you need it, I bet others need it. Because it's all in the same space. But you got to figure out how to serve your members better. There are voids out there that you're experiencing in your business that IDA can help fill for you. Now again, is that going to require some more work, expansion of the association? No doubt about it. But that's where IDA wants to become that mothership for, again, independent distributors and your companies and their various businesses, is trying to fill those voids for you. Potentially there's benefits. I saw the graphic posted up there of some different benefits. Figure out what those are, but again, when you answer those questions, what else could we do? What can we do for cheap? What can we do that's easy? What can we do that, again, will attract more people to be part of what we are, committing to serving people? I go back to this, man, it's the people in the room. And I want you to imagine this for a second. Going back to ABCA, I think sometimes we assume that people in our field know what IDA is. You assume. You got a buddy that you do a lot of work with that's probably in line to be part of an association like this, and when you call them, you're talking business. You're catching up on family. You might go play golf with them, but you're not bringing up IDA because you assume that they already know, and whether they choose to be part of that or not is up to them. I used to challenge our baseball coaches. You can't assume that everybody knows about ABCA. I want you to think about who got you involved with IDA. I bet it was a mentor. I bet it was a former boss. I bet it was a friend that reached out and said, hey man, I'm doing this IDA thing. They're sending me to Orlando. You got any interest in going with me? Yeah, I'll jump in there with you. Let's do it, man. Let's figure out what it's all about. You can't assume that everybody knows what's going on inside these walls. And the minute you start getting outside of that, imagine if everyone in this room brought one more person with them. And I want you to think through who that person might be. The person, again, you've been on the phone with 1,000 times. You've talked through countless conversations with. Have you ever talked about IDA? Have you ever talked about the convention? Have you ever talked the benefits of being a member here? The power of building a community? What if everyone in this room brought one more person? I know we'd have more people in the front row, I know that. I know we talk about banging down this wall. And again, when you're building, as we did, an association where we had the room pretty set because our membership was what it was, our convention around 3,800 to 4,400. And when we started seeing numbers come in, it goes, hey, you know how we've always sectioned off this much space? We need you to blow out that wall. And not just that wall, the wall next to it. Because now that number's jumping from, again, 4,000 to 8,000. And that's where you're trying to go. If one person brings one more person, changes everything. And again, getting those people to sign up. This is a leadership principle that most of you probably know, but I'm telling you, this is one that has changed my world as a baseball coach, completely changed it. Listening to very good business leaders talk about manage by walking around. Now again, I don't know your space, I don't know your setup, how your organization works, whether it's, again, one big building, warehouses all over the country, no clue. For my space, manage by walking around is when our guys go to stretch, I have a touch point with every single guy in my program. I walk that stretch circle, I hug every single one of my players every day, I tell them that I love them because I believe in the power of vulnerability. Some of them need a male figure in their life to tell them maybe for the first time, that they love them, and make sure that they know that's unconditional. I do that every single day in my program. It kills me. I'm not going to get emotional. It kills me that I can't hug my guys today because I love that touch point. But for me, that's managing by walking around. I'm making sure that every guy I have a touch point with, I can have a quick conversation with. One time I walked up on a left-handed pitcher, good kid, and boy, he had a sourpuss look on his face, and he looked down in the dumps, and shoulders were slumped in. And I said, TC, man, what's going on, brother? Like, what are you dealing with? He's like, nothing, man. And again, we've got the whole team in this, all the way around this thing, but I'm with him. And he's the most important person to me in this moment. What are you dealing with? Just, some stuff. And I said, yeah, I know. I'm asking, what are you dealing with, man? So you look like, something happened, like serious. I don't really want to talk about it. I said, no, that's why I'm here, dude. I do this every day. Like, what do you got? Well, my girlfriend broke up with me. Now, if you were 18, 19 years old, you remember how crushed you were? This kid's world just got shattered. And I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. They've been dating for a long time, since high school. And I said, how about this, man? How about you come by my office after practice? We'll talk for a little bit, and I'll try to give you some advice as your Uncle Sheets, man. Try to point you in the right direction. Because you're trying to convince a 19-year-old that he's on a college campus, and there's a bunch of females over the tree line that are ready to take this ginger home. Like, just trying to help him understand that life's going to continue to move on. And that's what we did. We got in the office afterwards and broke things down, let him cry, made me cry a little bit, but try to give him guidance. But you manage by walking around. So imagine you in your space walking around, spending time with your employees. Now you're going to hear on the ground floor, I go back to those trends, you're going to hear conversations around your business. You're walking around IDA, which I'm sure Tiffany and Lance and the leadership team are. When you're walking around having these conversations, you're going to hear trends. You're going to hear conversations. You're going to hear points being made. There's a reason they're saying it. But you're also building personal connections. When you want to commit to people, you start with these principles. Then you got to rebuild that process, okay? I love this, and I just ran across this a couple weeks ago, and it really puts things in perspective. The true definition of success is not where you're standing. Like wherever you're at in your business, it's not where you're physically standing. It's where you're standing based on where you started. It's got to have perspective to it. Without perspective, it's not really success. So you got to look back at where you started. So again, Tiffany 2 months ago takes the helm of IDA and goes, if this is my starting place, in the same way I did at ABCA, I took screenshots of Twitter followers, I took screenshots of membership numbers, I took screenshots of convention numbers, and I went, if we're starting here, I'm going this way. And again, 4 or 5 years later, I step back and look, that's success. And once again, you commit to rebuilding that process. That's the true definition of success, and you got to trust where that process is going to take you. I love this line too, goals without a plan are nothing but wishes. Like you could have membership goals, you can have convention goals, you can have business goals, financial goals, but without a plan, you're just hoping. You're just wishing that somehow things fall into place. It's like our offensive guys. I really want to hit 400. I really want to be an All-American. Great, what's your plan? I'm just going to get some swings in, you know what I'm saying? No, that ain't it, homie. That ain't going to get you there. Without a plan on how you're going to attack your day, when you start to learn time management, then you'll start to input where you're going to get your extra swings in. It's building a process that's got a plan to it. And so I think when it comes back to these important questions, these are questions we've been asking all our life. What and why? What are we trying to build? What are we trying to become? What is the potential for IDA? There's a ceiling for every organization. What is that ceiling? I'm going to speak, again, transparently. I don't know if you guys know your ceiling yet. Because no one's attacked it in the spirit in which I think this leadership team is going to attack it. Hopefully the people in this room are charged to go out and make some changes. The ceiling is undefined. But you got to figure out, answer the question of what. Then why? Again, why IDA? Why become a member? Why attend convention? Why will this process work? What's the strategy behind it that we know is going to lead us to where we're trying to go? But how is the most important question. In any organization, any team, answering the question of how is your action items. That's where what and why grow feet, and how starts to build that thing from the ground up. How literally gets everything in motion. How will stir the pot. Because now how allows you as a leader to look at exactly how you're going to make these things work. In my opinion, the more you can empower people around you to help you run the how, things take off. One thing with my assistant coaching staff, guys, I empower those dudes. I'm not trying to run this program by myself. I'm trying to run what I know is in my sweet spot, and I'm trying to give up things that I know someone could do better. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And again, I think that's vulnerability of leadership. How allows you to do that and empower those folks. And then that process, well, what's your message? So Tiffany and I were talking about social media, starting to build that intentional messaging. Well, what is that message? Why IDA? What are we doing here in Orlando? If you got some time tonight, and certainly keep the, as you guys know, when you take pictures, you kind of tuck the beverage. Everybody know that? It's an executive move right there. When you're, hey, let's take a picture. Now let's tuck that beverage back here. When you're taking pictures tonight, post that stuff. We had a social. We had a group of guys together. We had a group of 2 teams together. This board meeting you're getting ready to have. Somebody step up, take some pictures, post it. Because now someone that's not in IDA gets a chance to see what's happening at the IDA convention. Again, it's just being very intentional about that thing. What's your message? Why be part of this? How do you get them here with us? That process that lets you bring someone here, what does that process look like? What's that conversation look like? Because you might not have been having it before, but you start having it, it gets easier over time because you know what that message is. And then I think more than that, how do we stay locked in and focused? How do you keep the momentum from where we're at right now? How do you keep that moving forward? How do you take that with you? How do you carry that into next year's convention in Arizona? Which, well, again, I hope we're knocking down walls. I hope we're having to expand hotel space. How do we stay locked in and focused? Here's another tip from your Uncle Sheets here, okay? So every time you look over the neighbor's fence and you're trying to admire how good their grass is going, just remember every time you turn, you take the water hose with you. Okay, when you're stepping over and looking over everybody's fences, noticing what that business is doing or what that organization's doing, every time you turn, you take the hose with you. And you're just letting weeds and dead grass grow under your feet. I'm going to ask you to stay dialed in on IDA. Stay dialed in and focused on how you, and hopefully you've already written that person's name down, how can you get that person to come with you to Arizona? How can you get that person to turn into a member? And I think that matters. This process is very simple. And this is, I'm an illustrator by trade, right? This is complex stuff right here, guys. I don't know how I got this done. I spent all night trying to put it together. That's very simple, but it's easy, and it feeds itself. The minute that I start to really dissect process with my team, I'm circling back to people. Because the minute I start changing things, I've got to make sure that the people understand where that's going. I'm always redefining why we run bases the way we do, why our offensive strategy is what it is. What is our pitching plan? I got to make sure people understand that, and we're always reevaluating. It's a constant circle, but it's a self-feeding circle that takes you where you're trying to go. My last tip here, and I'll get off stage, is an old coach told me this, and I've held on to it ever since. And you talk about staying humble. I'm going to start it or end it where I started it, getting back to humble, controlling ego. Whether you're leading a Fortune 500 business or you're just trying to grow a small business or you're trying to grow an association, when you feel like you've never arrived, that is actually when you've arrived. That constant pursuit, that ambition is insatiable. That is a word I use very intentionally with my team. If we score 10, in my head, let's score 20. It's insatiable. The goal at GGC was never to win one national championship, it's to win multiple national championships. And I don't know what that number is. If we win 3, will I die happy? Probably not, because I will feel like we could have won 4. It's insatiable. There's no end. There's no ceiling. Because once again, I want to live a life that I feel like I've never arrived. I've never got to that resting place and gone, I've accomplished everything that I want to accomplish. And I think for IDA, that ceiling's high. I want to see how far it can go. I'm obviously want to check in with the leadership team and see where things are trending. But to see what's already happened here in the last day or so is pretty special, so I'm excited to see where that goes. This is my contact information. If I can help you out in any way, please reach out. That's my cell phone, because I do not know my office phone. Have no idea. Been there 4 years, have no idea what that number is. But that's my direct email. That's my cell phone. If you want to jump on social media, I would love to connect with you. Shoot me a DM. Grab me before I leave today. I'm a big Nux guy. I like to give Nux, especially to our guys. If I can help out in any way, please do. I hope you enjoy your time. I hope you crush it the rest of the day. And again, I appreciate your attention. Thanks for having me.